What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Sector for Nerds. I'm Ryan Brower, just taking a walk outside today, getting in some fresh air, as I've been kind of doing for the past few weeks, considering, there really isn't that much else to do, and figure you gotta stay active somehow, right? I'm not sure how windy it's gonna be, so hopefully the wind isn't too bad to where it's not gonna affect this video as much. But today I really wanted to talk to you guys about the newest Clone Wars episode, Dangerous Dead. I think so far this one was probably my favorite episode out of all the episodes that we've gotten so far. Feel free to disagree with me. I've just really been enjoying the Trace and Rafa storyline with Ahsoka so far, and you know what, I've been seeing a lot of people on social media being down on it and stuff. Just been trying to understand why everyone's against it so much, and it seems like it's just a mixture of things between people not liking the characters Trace and Rafa, which personally I've come to enjoy so far. People wanting to see Ahsoka in action is another big thing, which we did get action in this episode, so y'all can't complain about that. What else have I seen? Just, people obviously wanting the Siege of Mandalore, which I guess is understandable. And I know I've seen people as well saying how, for 12 episodes of for the fact that we're only getting 12 episodes of Clone Wars, there should be so much more action, which, I get that, but there also has to be story in there too, you guys. Like, it can't just be, we can't just take Ahsoka, leaving the Jedi Order, and then coming back and immediately doing the Siege of Mandalore. Like, we have to address what's happened to her after she left, and we have to see her, at her lowest point and trying to work her way back up and trying to help, what would turn out to be two of her peers. So let's get into this episode, because there's really two big moments that really stand out for me in this episode and why I like it so much. The first being the story of, that Rafa told Ahsoka about their parents and how, it goes all the way back to season 1 when Zero was released from prison, because I guess after that whole hostage crisis happened, the Jedi sent a task force to try and go out and recapture Zero before the whole Obi-Wan and Quinlan Vos thing in season 3. And so Rafa had said how everyone on Coruscant was basically watching this city speed chase going down, and that there was a alien with red eyes who shot down a cargo ship, which obviously is in reference to Cad Bane, so that's cool that we got a Bane reference in there. Bane ended up shooting the ship down. It was going to crash onto this cargo platform where I guess it was heavily occupied with ships and people, so the Jedi pushed the ship away, but in the process they managed to crash it into one of the buildings, I guess, and in one of those buildings is where Trace and Rafa lived and their parents. The parents were able to get Trace and Rafa out, but they weren't able to make it. So because of that, then their parents died. And then I think the moment that just sticks out to me, and Ahsoka's sitting there the whole time just like, oh my gosh, and everything. And so Rafa had said how one of the Jedi came up to her. She had a dark robe on, light green skin, which I'm assuming is Luminara. Because I don't know who else they would be referring to there, so I'm assuming it's Luminara, that went up to Rafa and said, don't worry, I had no choice, but the Force will be with you. And it was that moment where I'm just sitting there, and that was the first time, credit to Dave Filoni, because whenever someone says in Star Wars, may the Force be with you, it's usually a powerful moment, and I'm sitting there like, yeah, iconic Star Wars line and stuff. That was the first time I went, are you serious? And I just shrugged, and I'm like, ugh. So it's one of those moments where it's like, and then on top of that, she just left. She did nothing to help them. She didn't help give them money to find a new house, not a way to start a proper living on their own. So that it explains why Trace is the way that it explains why Rafa is the way that she is, and why she can sometimes seem like a snot hole and everything, is because of the fact that the Jedi basically did nothing to help her. And Ahsoka is just sitting there this whole time, just like speechless throughout the whole thing, and she doesn't even know what to say. She just, in the meantime, she just barely mumbles out the words like, I'm so sorry. Because what else do you say to that? You know what I'm saying? And then I think it's one of those moments for Ahsoka too, where she realizes, this is why I left. Because these guys, what the Jedi don't understand is they've been so occupied with the war that they've basically forgotten about its own people and have stopped caring about its own people. people and citizens on Coruscant, which is really unfortunate. It's a powerful moment, and I know it's one of those things that the fans, I'm sure, will be able to at least appreciate. But just remember, for those who have been hating on the previous 2 episodes, but are now starting to understand it in this one, just remember, we don't get that story without those 2 episodes that came before. You have to build up the characters in order to finally, get to this point where we can, once we finally start to get into them, we kind of show their vulnerable side. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not something that you can just show right away. After that, the Pikes take Rafa in for interrogation, and then Ahsoka and Trace are sitting there talking, and Ahsoka asks her, like, why did you bother with me? And then Trace, I'm getting the 2 mixed up, saying how basically, it's something that my mother would have done, being able to help other people. And it's what Ahsoka says later on too, I'm just used to helping people, that's kind of who I am. So then once the Pikes end up catching back up to him, and they end up capturing Trace and Rafa, but as they do so, they're running away, and Bo-Katan is sitting there, which is something that we had saw in the trailer, that she was there with the hood and everything, which is weird that she's still wearing the helmet though, which I thought having a cloak on but also wearing a helmet is kind of weird, but I digress. But then as Trace and Rafa get captured, and they show Ahsoka running, Bo-Katan is sitting there with 2 other Mandalorians, and they both, I don't know if they were both female, but I could definitely tell the one on the left was. And I'm sitting there going, like, she has a familiar voice, but I couldn't pick it up right away. I'm glad also that they referenced the whole Karlak situation between Bo-Katan and Ahsoka, because I knew that there was that history there, and it would be weird if they didn't address it. So, especially since, Bo slapped Ahsoka in the butt twice, but I think that was before she knew that she was a Jedi. So this other Mandalorian female says that, her presence could compromise our mission, but Bo-Katan assures her, well, don't worry, we have a common enemy, obviously referring to Maul. Now, I didn't think much of it at the time, but then after I'd watched the episode through, I went back and watched that scene because I liked it so much, and I'm sitting there thinking, who is that female, that other bounty hunter that was talking to Bo-Katan? And I'm sitting there thinking, like, she kind of sounds a little bit like the same Mandalorian from I forget her name, but the one female from the Mandalorian that, made him the armor and everything. I forget her name, but I'm like, maybe that's that person's mother or something like that, and they brought back the same actress to voice her or something like that. I don't know. But little did I expect that I go into the credits and I look and I see the person's name, which I didn't recognize at start, but then I looked over to the right and it said Ursa Wren. So for those of you who don't know who that is, I encourage you to watch Star Wars Rebels, but obviously for those who have seen it, you know that Ursa is the mother of Sabine, who is one of the main characters in the show. So that, I didn't expect that. I thought that was a nice touch to add in there. I don't know how the structure of Mandalore works at this time. Like, they're sitting here talking about all, like, these clans and houses and everything and rebels and stuff, and then it's like, here it's like, I thought it was just Death Watch, but then now it's like there's Bo-Katan's group there, and then obviously Ursa worked with Bo-Katan. So, like I said, maybe the clans divided after the Clone Wars ended, so I'm not sure. I'm hoping we get more of Ursa, and I definitely think that we will, considering that Dave had thought about putting her, if Dave thought about putting her in there for that episode, I can only imagine what he has planned for her in, like, the coming episodes. I wonder if we'll see her without her helmet on too. That'd be pretty cool. But I tell you what, guys, we are coming down to the wire, and we are getting to the Siege of Mandalore soon. So obviously for those people who haven't been enjoying this arc, which I still wouldn't understand why, I encourage you guys to be patient and know that, like, I think the Siege of Mandalore is going to be one of the best stories ever told in Star Wars. That's how high my expectations are for this. So I'm trusting that Dave will be able to pull this off. And, I hear everyone talking about how good it is. Sam Witwer, Ashley Eckstein, James Arnold Taylor, like, all these people are singing the praises of it and saying, like, how shocked they were by the ending. But the way the episode ends is Ahsoka ends up rescuing Trace and Rafa, only to end up getting captured, and then end up right where they were at the beginning of the episode, and that's back in the prison, at Obadiah. So I will admit, if there was one thing that I wish they wouldn't have done, is just end up back in prison again. But like I said, I am curious to see where this goes, and I have been enjoying this arc so far. So maybe Ahsoka's gonna have to use her Force powers, and Trace and Rafa are gonna end up seeing it this time, or maybe Bo-Katan will get them out. I'm not sure, because I mean, I think we all realize at this point, right, that Ahsoka is gonna go off with Bo-Katan to Mandalore. And you know what, guys? I've really been enjoying the return of Clone Wars so far, and I knew I would. But I think, like, right now in the current, state of things that we're living in, I think entertainment is, a necessity more than ever. And, Star Wars, the Clone Wars being on every, Friday for these next few weeks and stuff, it's allowed me to escape the real world and go back to that galaxy far, far away, to go back and, live through the show that I freaking loved, growing up. And it's so cool because I get to go through that all over again one last time, and I still hold a lot of, heat with Disney, because why you couldn't have done, 2, 3, even 4 more seasons of this is beyond me. And I get, like, maybe you guys are working towards other stuff, like doing a Sabine and Ahsoka show, or, other live action stuff, like, more Mandalorian content, everything. Like, I get that, but that doesn't mean that you still couldn't have done multiple seasons of the Clone Wars. You know what I'm saying? Like, people love this stuff so much. I think I've rambled on enough, though. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, like us on Facebook, and I will see you guys next time.